What's up, people? What's up? Hey, 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 hey. What is up? Good morning. How art thou? How is everyone doing? We are here. So glad to be here. Good morning. What up? What up? What up? And all that good stuff. It is another politics of it all live. I don't have but maybe three good stories today, but I had to cut it down to three stories so that my whole head doesn't explode. Because even within the three stories that I have, my freaking head might explode, and sugar and confectionate sugar and all kinds of Skittles may pop out of my brain and out of my neck because it's spiking stuff that's going out there in the world of politics. So I whittled it down to just three stories today. Okay. Hopefully I won't be before you long, but that's last words of a pastor that was up at a pulpit for 7-8 hours. I won't be before you long. Sure. We done heard of that before. Anyway, good morning. Hey Tanya Love. Hey Volvo. Hey Tracy. Hey Jason. Hey everybody. I know I'm late. I am tardy to the party. I do. You ain't gotta tell me. I know. But yeah, we here. Anyway, um, yeah, let me go ahead and knock this down and get this out and about. So The first story that we have to talk about today, it's just I saw this earlier in the weekend, and I was like, really? That's what we're doing? But here it is. All right. So let me read part of this article. It says longtime Illinois U.S. Representative Bobby Rush is joining a rising chorus of calls for the CEO of the McDonald's Corporation to step down. Chris Kempczynski exchanged text messages with Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot in which, according to reports, he appeared to blame the March 29th shooting deaths of two Chicago children, one black, the other Latino, on the youngsters themselves and their parents. In a text to the mayor, Kempczynski called the deaths of 7-year-old Jaslyn Adams and 13-year-old Adam Toledo tragic. He added in the text to Lightfoot, quote, the parents failed those kids, which I know is something you can't say, even harder to fix, end quote. Adams, as you know, was shot and killed while waiting at a McDonald's restaurant with her father on the same spring day. Toledo was shot and killed by Chicago police officer Eric Stillman in early morning hours. Reports indicate Toledo had been carrying a gun and had dropped it when he turned to face Stillman, who had who had cornered him in an empty alleyway. Um, so, hey Jay Parrish, I love have a wonderful week on purpose. And I love when you say on purpose, Jay Parrish. So here's what Representative Bobby Rush said. He said, quote, I am horrified by recently revealed texts from McDonald's CEO Chris Kempczynski blaming the tragic shooting deaths of Chicago children Jaslyn Adams and Adam Toledo on their parents. Today, I'm joining with others in demanding that Chris Kempczynski be fired or step down. It is completely unacceptable for the CEO of a powerful multinational corporation, let alone one that markets aggressively to communities of color and publicly proclaims that, quote, Black Lives Matter, end quote, to espouse such deplorable beliefs. The truth is that McDonald's would not be the multinational corporation it is today if not for the Black customer base that has long provided enormous profits. The Black community deserves and demands far better responses and better treatment from McDonald's and its leaders. So we got the McDonald's Corporation CEO basically and let me read what he wrote to y'all first about the little black um the black 7-year-old where he said about that child, quote, the parents failed, and about this Hispanic child, 13-year-old, the parents failed those kids, which I know is something you can't say, even harder to fix. Once you add the disclaimer on there, which I know is something you can't say, you know he's going down a road that he should not be going down. That's when you know he realizes that what he's saying is problematic. Mind you, hey Fifi, mind you, Lori Lightfoot is black. She's a lesbian. She is a woman. All of those things that go into play. Okay. And so you want to marginalize the Latino community as well as the Black community to the mayor of Chicago, saying that it was the parents failed them. Let me tell you again what happened with this Black 7-year-old child. It was stated that all that child was doing, if you remember the story, that child was waiting for their parents outside of McDonald's that happened to get gunned down. Now, the other case with the Hispanic child, you got a 13-year-old who's gotten cornered by the police. Gun falls down on the ground. Now, at the moment that the gun is on the ground, clearly the child does not have the gun anymore. So why is this child being shot by this police officer? Hey, Tabitha. Hey, Fifi. So you got the CEO of McDonald's saying these things. Let me read the quote again. He said, quote, the parents failed those kids, which I know is something you can't say, even harder to fix. Like I said, when he adds that disclaimer, that I know you can't say, he knew what he said was problematic. He knew what he said was problematic. So Representative Bobby Bush is well within his rights to be like, get him out of here. I'm here for get him out of here. Like he said, like Representative Bush said, Black people don't put a whole lot of money in the pockets of McDonald's. Let's be clear. Mind you, the girl was shot in front of McDonald's, but the parents failed her. Make it make sense. Good morning, Abby. Make it make sense. And y'all, this is me easing us into my three stories today. So we got too much going on here, y'all. We got way too much going on here. Is he going to get, is he going to have to step down and resign? I don't know. Should he? What this what this shows us is there's a couple things that these text messages coming out showing. Well, first of all, I want to know how the text messages got out there. Did Mayor Lightfoot put them out there? Let me keep reading more of the article. The article says Kim Kaczynski's text messages with Mayor Lightfoot were about coordinating a conversation with the owner or operator of the franchise where Adams' shooting took place. Representative Rush issued a statement calling for Kaczynski's resignation, describing his text as, a deplorable matter to be written text messages. Kaczynski's offensive statements also caught the attention of media mogul Byron Allen, owner of many media platforms, as we know, who took out a full-page ad in the Detroit Free Press and the Chicago Tribune, where he called for the resignation also of Kaczynski. Here's Mary Kay Henry, president of the Service Employees International Union, agrees with Representative Bush and Byron Allen. She issued a statement of support saying Byron Allen is 100% right in his statements about McDonald's unacceptable, toxic, racist culture. Workers in the fight for $15 and a union have been sounding the alarm about systemic racism at McDonald's for years, and SEIU has supported their efforts to hold the company accountable every step of the way. I joined the call on McDonald's board of directors to remove the president and CEO Chris Kaczynski immediately as one step in the many needed to address the systemic racism workers have decried for years. Now let me go to where the racism come in. When Allen put out this full page letter in the Chicago Tribune and in the Detroit Free Press, he not only demanded that McDonald's for the resignation of Kemzinski, but he demanded that McDonald end its racial discrimination that it's had over years. And he wrote that despite public pressure to do so, racist behavior continues to persist at the company. He went on to list several headlines from major news media, including the Chicago Tribune, USA Today, and ABC News, about claims of racism at McDonald's, including a recent report about protesters condemning Kaczynski's text messages. Allen said, quote, McDonald's is terrible. Racist culture is indefensible and unacceptable. The headlines below and many others prove that you are not doing your jobs and you continue to perpetuate and support racism. And he went on to talk about why they needed to resign. Now, this is becoming a big thing because the SEIU has gotten involved. Um, April Verrett, president of SEIU Local 215, I'm sorry, 2015, said in a statement, quote, McDonald's, if you truly care about children like Adam and Jaslyn and have respect for their parents, it's time you stop paying lip service. You need to start paying families sustainable wages and allow workers to form unions. If you really want to stand with Black and brown communities, prove it, not with words or slogans, but by taking action to lift up your workers and our communities. I join the calls for McDonald's board of directors to fire CEO Chris Kemzinski as the first in many steps, and that echoes the statements of uh, Mary Kay Henry. All right, so here's what Jaslyn Adams' mother, Lanisha Walker, had to say to the Chicago Sun-Times. Um, quote, I am a grieving parent. I've been grieving for the longest. And from your place of power, you insult me. How dare you judge me? How dare you say I failed my child? I wasn't there when my child was killed. I didn't know she was at your McDonald's with her father at that moment in time. You owe me an apology. End quote. And if you remember the story, Jaslyn had gone to Mac. She wasn't with the mom. She had gone to McDonald's with the dad, and she was standing outside of the McDonald's, and that's when she was shot. Anyway, Kemzinski did issue an apology in an open letter to upset employees, in which he wrote, quote, I have not walked in the shoes of Adams's or Jaslyn's or of Adams or Jaslyn's family and so many others who are facing a very different reality. Not taking the time to think about this from their viewpoint was wrong and lacked the empathy and compassion I feel for these parents. This is a lesson that I will carry with me. He held a town hall meeting with his McDonald's staff last week, Monday, but we haven't gotten any details from that event. So it looks like he may have an issue. As you can see, he's issuing statements. Of course, he has to, because this is growing legs and traction. Now, McDonald's and several other corporations are under, and and this is during the tenure of Chris Kemzinski, has been coming under fire because if you remember before last summer of 2020, McDonald's and several corporations pledged billions of dollars toward Black Lives Matter and all other things um, uh, geared toward policing and criminal justice reform and so forth. And they went ahead and didn't deliver on all of the money that they had promised. We'll monitor this and see what happens. But would he be? I can't say definitively whether or not he's going to lose his job because. Hey, so Jeff, what's good? Hey, Patty Duke, what's good? But we'll monitor the situation and see. Should he lose his job? Part of me wants to say yes. Part of me wants to say no. Um, well, I'm not going to say no, but I'm going to say I think that it shouldn't just be this one situation. Maybe this is the situation that breaks the straw that breaks the camel's back. But as we can see, McDonald's has a history of, hey, Miss Trisha P, of not doing the right things by Black people. And I think that they just probably need to clean house, because if he comes out, they're just going to promote another one of their board members that's probably of the same line of thinking as he is. And I don't know the situations are going to get better. Okay. Hey, Tracy, we was cutting up this weekend. One of these days, we're going to get Tabitha to come and hang with us this weekend when we all together in town. One of these good old days, Tabitha going to come and hang with us. One of these good old days. Anyway, that was our light story. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of what we need to talk about. So, which one do I want to do first? Hmm, let's do this one first. Okay. So, we got, if y'all remember, on the I believe it was the last, it's such a quandary. I've seen the big checks that McDonald's writes to HBCU. Yes, like I said, Tabitha, I don't know if I'm ready for them to just, if that one incident is enough. But it is problematic that you're saying these things when you think nobody's listening, because it truly speaks to what's in your heart. And like I said, I wonder how these text messages got out there. Like, did Mayor Lightfoot put them out? Did somebody on her staff put it out there? Like, how did this get out? But this is a problem, and it needs to be addressed, which is why the CEO ended up having a town hall and so forth. And it's a whole bunch of things. McDonald's not um being on board with the $15 an hour living wage. McDonald's and they're not allowing for unions and the treatment of Black and brown people within that company. So it's although, and that's internally, but outwardly you will see them, oh, here's some money. And we see this a lot with a lot of corporations or a lot of white people who want Black people to shut up about them really fixing the problem of racism and systemic racism and discrimination across the fruited plains. They will throw money at us and say, hey, we gave y'all money, now y'all shut the hell up. We see that from a lot of people, white people who want to keep their white privilege, and it perpetuates and proliferates their own white privilege and white supremacy when they just throw money at us and tell us to just shut up, because now, you know what I'm saying, they feel like they paid us off because they are the ones with access to all of this capital and money and influence and so forth. And so they feel like they can control the narrative via the media, control by having these headlines of them showing that, oh, I gave this money to this Black school. Oh, I'm giving scholarships for this. Oh, I have this one token member of the board that's Black that's willing to speak out and say that we are an inclusive company, when all the while you're really harboring these feelings and you're really trying to perpetuate your white privilege and white supremacy. Let's just be clear. So I kind of see both sides. Because we know the game that that white people play with us. We know the games that they play. Speaking of, hey, E Starkey, I ain't seen you in a minute, E Starkey. Where you been? Speaking of games people play, um, I'm pausing to let the sugar intake go to my bloodstream, because the last two stories are gonna send me to a place. Tabitha and other people watching, y'all want to stick around for that last story because it's going to reveal a whole lot. Trust me. The last story you want to be here for. You want to have your popcorn and you want to really be taking notes about what I'm going to go into, what we're going to break down in this last story. Please understand me. Hear me good. All right. I'm not even going down the path of the Rittenhouse and Ahmaud Arbery trials because I'm going to end up being mad, and I already know where that's going. And I know the black clergy plan to be present at the Ahmaud Arbery trial. They plan a whole like, oh, you don't want black pastors here? The whole black clergy is coming. I really feel like that's going to reveal some things about the judge because I the way I'm set up, I need to, because I already see where those two trials are going. I already can see the writings on the wall. So I ain't gonna even I'm not gonna even take myself to a point where I'm upset, broke down, busted, and disgusted because this is something that I expected, and regardless, up it, yeah. I'm not gonna go down that road. Let me. mm, mm, mm. 'Cause I have been monitoring those two trials. I might just break them down once the verdicts come out. I might break those down then, but yeah, it's gonna take me to too many places. So last week when we were talking about the Dems failing us with this infrastructure bill, we said on this live, I told y'all, I told y'all what we spelled out what was about to happen. I told y'all that Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema and their band of merry fucks were going to hold the Build Back Better plan hostage. I told y'all that. I said when you had the Progressive Caucus that still voted no on the infrastructure bill, I applauded them. And I told y'all that Joe Manchin and them in the Senate would never pass the Build Back Better Act. I knew that. I knew, and that's why I'm so glad that the squad held firm. And the squad said, I don't give a shit. We are not voting yes on this. Because if we vote yes on this, we have no leverage. No leverage. You gave up all of the leverage and power you had, stupid ass Nancy Pelosi. And let's be clear. If I'm being really honest, Nancy, do I really believe that you truly intended on passing or was really hell bent on the Build Back Better Act? Because by giving up all of the leverage and that you had, that leads me to believe that you were Nancy Pelosi. Let's be clear. Nancy Pelosi is very strategic in what she does. Nancy Pelosi is a political strategist who everybody on Capitol Hill knows she don't fuck off. She's not giving up leverage like that for something that she wants. And for her to so easily and nilly-willy say, okay, I'm just going to get them to vote on the infrastructure bill without any promise from Manchin and Kirsten Sinema explicitly to vote to Build Back Better, and Joe Biden weak ass talking about, oh yes, this is going to happen. I have all faith. I don't know why the fuck we said right here on this live. I don't know why the fuck you got faith in these people, because I knew Joe Manchin has already come out and said, yeah, it's a whole lot of other bills that I need to worry about and be here for than the Build Back Better Act. Matter of fact, remember the Build Back Better Act was supposed to be about 3.75 billion that they whittled down to like 1.75 trillion. I'm sorry, not billion, but trillion. And so because Joe Manchin was gutting that from the beginning. And let's be clear, Joe Manchin is now on attack of all parts of that bill that has anything to do with environmental protections, with clean air, with anything like that. The taxes that they were planning on taxing companies that release fossil fuels and stuff into the air so that we can work on cleaner air emissions and stuff like that. And Manchin said, I'm not doing no parts of that. If you're gonna keep that in there, I'm not voting um on the Build Back Better Act. Then they said, and then let me get to parts of this because there's certain pieces of this that shows that every point in time the Democratic Party wants to point at progressives as the problem. They want to point at the progressives and say, oh, y'all not playing nice, y'all ain't doing what y'all supposed to do. But the only people that have been willing to bend and compromise on anything is the progressives. The progressives are always the one that are told to come to the table ready to negotiate and bend and compromise and coalesce. And the moderates don't do none of that shit. Listen, let me. Where's my hold on. So let me. I got a couple articles here. Let's break down some of this stuff. Let's break down some of this stuff. Here's I got a couple, like 3 articles, and I'm not gonna read them all, but I'm gonna read certain parts. It says Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Now he is going out of his way. Y'all know the Joe Manchin who drives a Maserati. That Joe Manchin, the Joe Manchin who still owns coal mining companies and is taking all kinds of hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars from corporations that are fossil fuel companies and corporations and conglomerates and all kinds of companies that want him to do their bidding and keep laws out of Congress that help the environment, that help stop the fossil fuels from causing the horrible things that happen to this environment. That Joe Manchin. Anyway, he's made it a point that he is going to be the one person that stops, right? Who lives on a mansion? Yeah, don't forget that part. Um, Not lives on a mansion. Who lives on a yacht? Excuse me. His last name is Mansion for a reason. Anyway, Joe Manchin is going to get rid of the EV tax credit that would incentivize drivers to purchase union-made electric vehicles. So there's supposed to be a tax credit that is supposed to go to people that drive and help out and help with the emissions process and so forth, and specifically from certain companies that supports unions and companies that are unionized and have workers that are making these electric cars. Joe Manchin said, I want no parts of that, and I'm not voting on anything that has anything to do with that. Matter of fact, just know I'm here for anything that's going to promote all of the bad emissions. Anything that's horrible to the environment, I'm promoting that. Anything that's here to save the environment, I ain't here for none of that. So that's one part of the thing. And so what the part of the Build Back Better Act that gave the tax credit would do is it would give tax credits for electric vehicle purchasers, and would increase the current maximum tax credit of $7,500 eligible for electric vehicles by 4,500, but only for vehicles being built using unionized labor. Another $500 credit will be eligible for vehicles that use battery packs made with at least 50% U.S. manufacturing. In theory, drivers who buy a new electric vehicle from General Motors, which is one of the companies that's unionized and stuff like that, could receive up to $12,500 in credits um, from that from driving, electric vehicle. All of it, and that seems like a lot of money, and that's because there's this push to help with emissions and all of that stuff. And you do have people that are slowly moving toward electric cars, but they're trying to speed that up to kind of help with the climate. Joe Manchin said, "I want no parts of that." I told you he owns coal mines and owns companies that work in coal mines that are responsible for some of the horrible labor things that are going on with miners and stuff like that. Joe Manchin said, "Listen, I want no parts of that. It's not going to happen. Get over it. We ain't doing no parts of that." Okay. In addition to that, I mean, he is a whole piece of work. Okay. In addition to that, um, it's just a whole piece of work. Where am I? Oh, here it is, right here. There was going to be the taxes that they were going to make on a lot of oil companies that are companies responsible for emissions and not just if you emitted uh, pollutants into the air, but if you were over a certain percentage, you could be taxed. And it was a global by these oil companies and so forth. Joe Manchin said, "I don't want no parts of that. It's not gonna happen. Get rid of it." So then what happened was there was this proposal where they wanted to cut the emissions of methane gas. They said, "Well, we just gonna make it just the methane gas, and we want to cut that by 30%." So Senate negotiators, they dropped the $150 billion clean electricity performance program from the budget reconciliation package. And that clean electricity performance program was the one where they were going to tax electric companies and other oil companies and other companies that were having electric generation that was harmful to the environment if it was at a certain percentage in terms of its harmfulness to the environment. Joe Manchin said he didn't want no parts of that, so they took that out. So then what they did was they Senator Whitehouse, who's a progressive, Democratic progressive in out of the state of Rhode Island in the Senate, he identified a carbon tax and a methane tax as two proposals that would make up for the loss or to help offsuit, so we still could bring in money and be helping the environment at the same time. Well, Joe Manchin said, "You want to do what? You want to help what? No." And Joe Manchin's companies that he owns aren't responsible, don't have a lot to do with the methane and the carbon tax. However, he's got companies that are paying him in order to not vote on this kind of stuff. And so when you have companies in your pockets and they're giving you money and money and money, you could pretty much say no to anything. And he's not the only one. A whole lot of the moderate Dems have money that they're getting and that's allocated to them from these type of corporations. I keep telling y'all, even though the name we keep hearing is Joe Manchin is giving cover to a lot of other moderate Dems that are doing the exact same things that he is. Please be clear, he is not the only one. And he's okay because it ain't no smoke off his back. He's okay being the poster child for this and rolling around. Why? Because it gives him a sense of entitlement and power, and that helps him in his own facade that he's the greatest person on earth, that he's Jesus Christ walking the earth. That helps him with his white privilege and white supremacy that he has walking up and down the streets of Washington, D.C. The Here's the scary part. See, this is how I told y'all Nancy Pelosi ain't shit. She's in on the jig as well. Nancy Pelosi plans to bring the Build Back Better Act to the House floor this week because she feels like she has the votes, knowing full well it's going to get to the Senate, and there's not an ice cube's chance in hell it's going to pass the Senate. Not in any of its current iteration. She's going to send it to the Senate floor, knowing Joe Manchin is going to vote no, knowing Kirsten Sinema, and there's a couple others that I've been hearing rumblings of that are going to vote no on this. But you sending it over to the Senate floor, only for it to get voted down. And progressives are losing their minds, and they have every reason to lose their mind. They have this and the story I'm about to get to in a second as reason to lose their minds, okay? Because they told them before they voted on the infrastructure bill last week, hey, boo, hey, y'all need to understand if we vote the infrastructure bill in this Build Back Better Act that's supposed to do all of this great stuff for the American people, ain't going to happen. And as you can see, it ain't going to happen. And the progressives keep being the scapegoats for things when they're the only ones that's really out here fighting to try and get things that's in for the American people, because they're running all kinds of campaigns saying that, oh, the people who voted no against the infrastructure bill are voting no towards roads. No, we ain't voting no towards road. We're voting no for people that try to hold the American people hostage. We got two things going on. Two styles of party infighting. On the Republican side, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is putting out private cell phone numbers of all of the Republicans who voted yes. All of the Republicans who crossed the aisle and voted yes on the bipartisan infrastructure bill, Marjorie Taylor Greene is putting their private cell phone numbers out there so members of the public can call them and send them threatening voicemail messages and calls. That's on the Republican side. That's the fuck shit they got going on. On the Dem side, you got establishment Dems that are calling out the progressive wing for not voting yes on this and saying, oh, they're voting no to infrastructure. They're voting no to roads, and they're voting no to, better internet access for rural communities and stuff. Now, the problem also is the progressive caucus is the smallest caucus. I'm transitioning here. Watch this transition. The progressive caucus is the smallest caucus. I believe it's still the smallest caucus in Congress. And they listen, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a terrorist in every sense of the word. She's a terrorist, a whole terrorist. Shout out to Marcus Flowers, who's running against her. So the progressive this is the story that I told y'all. Y'all need to have y'all popcorn, y'all coffee, something to drink, and be ready to, this is L Teddy 27 breakdown exclusive. It's gonna break this down. Okay. As I get my notes ready in front of me. So the reason that the progressives have to take these L's and have to endure all of this is because they're still one of the smallest caucuses in Congress. And left to the Dems, they will see to it that they remain one of the smallest caucuses in Congress. How are they going to do that? Let me take you back to the great city of Buffalo, New York. Remember we reported on our girl, India Walton? The fact that she had won the Democratic primary in the mayoral race in the great city of Buffalo, beating out incumbent Byron Brown. Byron Brown is a black man. India Walton is a black woman. India Walton is a progressive. Okay? One might ask themselves, how does Byron Brown still win the mayoral race when he wasn't the Democratic candidate? He lost the Democratic primary. Well, let's delve deeper into, because some people don't believe me when I tell them some of the horrible things that go on the Democratic side, especially toward the progressives. So let's dig deeper and pull aside the curtain to tell y'all, to show y'all what happened. Now, my notes here are from a couple different sources and articles that I've been researching out, because I told you I was going to figure out this India Walton situation. So, Byron Brown, I have to tell y'all, is an establishment Dem. He's a moderate Democrat, and establishment Democratic Party and all of the bigwigs down to the DNC made it a point that they said, "Oh, we're not going to have any of this fuck shit. We're not going to have any parts of any progressiveness, and stuff like that," because they have disillusioned themselves into thinking that them continuing to try to hold the banner of being a moderate Dem is what's going to keep you in power. That's how Hillary Clinton ended up losing. And the only reason Joe Biden was able to to win on his moderate Dem platform is because the country knew we couldn't do another 4 years of Cheeto Man. And Cheeto Man was so far off the right side and so loony that we just had to do something. But please be clear, the Republican Party still hold those ideologies, but they're going to run someone who is a career politician. They're going to have someone who is palatable and not off their rockers like Cheeto Man, and who's still not moderate or centrist. They're still going to be out there on the right fringe. And until Dems understand, I need to go further to the left side, because the country is polarized at this point. And I know that's dangerous. And I know we want to live utopian and pie in the sky and say the country needs to be more center, but that's not where our country is, sweetheart. The country is very polarized. And if you want to be a true strategic political strategist, you need to see the writings on the wall that the country is polarized. And if the votes are going more left, then you need to promote people that are more left and going that way, so as to get things done and to keep things on your side. But they're not going to do that. They're setting themselves up for the bloodbath. And let me show you how they do that. Let me show you how they do that. So the Democratic Party supported Byron Brown as a write-in candidate for the mayoral election in Buffalo. I told y'all, India Walton, a progressive black woman, was the Democratic nominee. She won the Democratic primary fair and square. She primaried the incumbent Byron Brown. But no, Dems would have no parts of this write-in candidate. Oh no, not the establishment Dem. You don't believe that shit? Because they knew India Walton is a progressive and wasn't going to fall in line and do whatever they, and kowtow to them and do whatever they said. So they went on a campaign and had Byron Brown as a write-in candidate. A city as large as Buffalo has a write-in candidate, meaning you go to the poll and literally have to write in the name Byron Brown. Large cities like Buffalo and the such, write-in candidates don't win. When the last time you heard of that going on in a large city like that? Unless there was something going on behind the scenes. And there was. The Dems solicited the work of the unions in that area. We know Buffalo touts itself as a blue collar city, and so forth. So there's a lot of union workers in Buffalo, and so the Dems said, "All right, unions, we done been playing with y'all for a long time. Y'all done called on a lot of favors from us. It's time for us to get a return on these favors." So they went to the unions. And told the unions, "Hey, boo, we need y'all to get all of y'all union people to write in Byron Brown." You know who else they went to solicit a write in of Byron Brown? The Republican Party. They got Republicans to be fearful, and they talked to a Republican establishment and said, "Hey, y'all don't have an ice cube chance in hell of getting a Republican um, candidate in there. It's not gonna happen. Y'all don't want no parts of this left progressive socialist Democrat in the form of this beautiful black woman, India Walton. So if y'all know like we know, y'all need to get as many Republicans to write in Byron Brown as y'all can. Because y'all don't want no parts of this wacko progressive socialist chick that's coming on out here." Oh yes. It was all calculus. And then what they did was, if you notice, none of the big establishment New York Democrats endorsed India Walton. You didn't see them coming out with campaigns and ads and endorsing her and going to her. Now the Progressive Caucus did, AOC and the squad and them did. What's my boy? Um, Out of New York, who's on the Progressive Caucus, the black man. Talk. So Jeff just named him. What's my boy name? Oh, I can't think of this man's name. Jamal Bowman. That's him. Jamal Bowman. God, I couldn't think of his name. Anyway, but the establishment Dems, the bigwigs down to the DNC, all of the main big time Dems, no endorsement, none, because they didn't want no parts of it. Want no parts of it. Now, you know who else that they had in their corner that also helped in this? The newspaper down there to Buffalo, the Buffalo News. Now, the Buffalo News did an editorial where they endorsed Byron Brown. Um, and they said that Byron Brown's was done wrong, that he had did right by the city of Buffalo, and they needed to and he should be a write-in candidate. My sources that I don't pull from a lot of places said that this newspaper had propped up Brown's power of incumbency against Walton, whom the paper called Walton dangerously unqualified and quote, the municipal version of electing Donald Trump expecting great things from an inexperienced and unqualified leader who is sometimes driven by grievances. It added that, quote, many of her proposals would set the city back, end quote, chastising her for going too far and demanding a reduction in the police budget. The paper argued that, quote, although she has toned down her rhetoric since the June primary, her approach is divisive and she is a political rookie. Now, if you don't know, a lot of editorials done in the newspaper are, written by someone's, staff member and then given to the a person down to the newspaper and say, put in as an editorial in order to get certain things traction and in order to, get things in the minds and thoughts and, of the populace. So when they put out this endorsement of Byron Brown, basically castigating and dragging India Walton, comparing her to Donald Trump, we know where this is coming from. They had a problem with the fact that she said that they needed to reduce the police budget. And that is the calling card, for, oh yes, white people, come on out, because we got a problem here. She wants to reduce the police budget. She wants to do something with your police. Which a lot of places, and let's be clear, India Walton ran in the primaries on all of this. This is nothing new. It's not like she just came out and said, she's been running on this from the very beginning. She said what she wanted to do. She said exactly what she wanted to do and was able to successfully defeat Byron Brown in the primaries. A new establishment, them said, I know the fuck you lying. Oh, this cannot happen. And they started to work. Do y'all hear the language that they're using about this beautiful black woman? You hear the language, right? In its endorsement, the Buffalo News said of Byron Brown, quote, there have been missteps as there are with any mayor, but then didn't go on to say what any of those missteps were. But you want to strategically, with diamond-like precision, point out every single piece of what you have a problem with India Walton's platform. In this endorsement, the paper's coverage, the paper cited coverage of an affordable plan Walton had championed as a community leader that failed to come to fruition, quoting one person who cited Walton and her partners, quote, inexperience with complex housing projects of this scale, end quote. This was a follow-up to another story in which the news gave Brown the chance to criticize her record on affordable housing. There was a situation in Buffalo with affordable housing, and she had come up with a plan to put more money into affordable housing so as to offset the money that people would pay. But in my research of what I found out, Byron Brown wanted no parts of this, because if he got parts of this, this would take money. This would mean that the city would have less money and more money would go toward, helping the people get this affordable housing. And he wanted no parts of that. So he got his people to make sure in committee that this didn't come to fruition. And so they're touting that as one of the main reasons why she's a political novice and you can't have her running the whole city because she can't possibly run the whole city. And let's be clear, every politician has to start off as a novice somewhere. And clearly, no, this isn't a monarchy where you got this one figurehead that's doing everything. Mayors have a whole team of people around them. Mayors have a whole administration that is there to guide, that mayor along the path, and help them with all of the political strategies that they need to use. It's a whole goddamn mess that they got going on in the city of Buffalo. Okay. Anyway, after they um endorsed Brown in the primary, right? When he lost the primary, the paper then went on to tell people to support him as a write-in candidate, saying that enough city voters are concerned about having an inexperienced and self-proclaimed democratic socialist take over the city's top job that Brown's write-in campaign has a chance to succeed. They went on to say that Buffalo should not undergo such a drastic change based on such a small number of primary voters. Let me go on. The papers, they not only attacked her on the editorials, they attacked her in other ways. The newspaper then went on, and the reason that I'm highlighting the things the newspaper did, because the newspaper began to be the vessel by which the Democratic establishment could put all of this stuff out there. People aren't reading a whole lot of print media. But now, newspapers have turned into social media outlets or just media conglomerates where they not only have their print newspaper, but they have their website, they have their Twitter, they have their Instagram, they have their TikTok, they have their Facebook pages, and they have become entire media platforms and conglomerates all to its own. So what ends up happening is they would use the newspaper as their vessel and conduit by which to get their message out. So what you would have is the newspaper will put it out there, and you would get a retweet from this person, or you'll get a like from this person, and it wouldn't be actual brass in the DNC, but people close enough with brass in the DNC, and people who see it for the political establishment in the DNC, and people aligned with the establishment of the DNC. Y'all that be on political Twitter, y'all know how there's certain names that when you see them tweet certain things or like certain things, it gets traction, it grows legs, and a lot of people start to retweet and like and so forth, and that's how you get the ball rolling. So it started off with the editorials, and then they started to go into other parts of the newspaper. Oh, it was very well calculated. The paper reported that, quote, an allegation of drug activity at a house rented by Democratic mayoral nominee India B. Walton 3 years ago cast new perspectives on her campaign. Although the paper admitted that quote, nobody was charged in connection with the complaint and or the activity, adding that the man suspected of dealing drugs from Walton's house was Anson Whitted, who served more than 12 years in state prison for selling cocaine, assault, and possession of a weapon. Walton denied Whitted ever lived at her home, but acknowledged he occasionally stayed there. So here's what happened. They're doing what they do. There was a complaint about activity allegedly going on that at a house that Walton owned, said that there was a man suspected of dealing drugs out of their house. However, there was no charges that was made for that complaint. Nothing came out of that complaint, but they rolled with it anyway. Hear what I said. There were no charges filed. There was just a complaint that someone had and alleged. They looked into it. No charges were found. Nobody were filed. Nobody was arrested. Nothing came out of it. But they don't put this whole man's name out there, and they done attached India Walton to this and saying that she has somebody living in her house that's selling drugs out of their house. Now the lady done went and said, um, the lady done went and said that he don't live with me. He comes over and stays. I got friends that, if they in town, hey, come on, stay at the house. I have no problem. A mess. A mess. The lady ain't have nothing to do with no criminal activity at all. But the newspaper made no bones about sullying that woman's name, dirtying that woman's name, all in the Buffalo streets. Um, and that the language that they were using was very racial. Let's just be clear. There's always racial undertones to this kind of stuff. The way they color these things with the right adjectives, verbs, and adverbs always has racial undertones to it. Now, when people started to get, because remember, it's not like nobody likes her. She won the primary. So she has backing in the area. So when people started to figure out what the newspaper was doing, there began to be a protest outside of the Buffalo News. About a dozen activists protested outside the paper's headquarters for what they called biased coverage against Walton, with one activist saying that the newspaper, quote, um, that the newspaper's article was full of half truths, misstatements, and misallegations. Now, the newspaper also went on to play up India Walton's 2014 arrest when she was working as a nurse, the details of which, are murky even by the newspaper's own account, insinuating that she was too questionable to be in the city's highest office. The piece said that Walton was arrested, quote, on a charge of second-degree harassment on June 27, 2014, at a children's hospital, and that the arresting officer said a fellow nurse had complained that Walton has continuously threatened to do bodily harm to her. Later on in the piece, the newspaper says Walton denied that she ever harmed a co-worker, noting that she was the victim of bullying on social media by the woman who had her arrested. Was What's interesting about it is after that whole thing, Walton ended up receiving a slap on the wrist, um, and um, she wasn't dismissed from her job or anything. And when they investigated it further, they did find that the other coworker was the aggressor in a lot of the exchanges, and that the other coworker was doing things on social media to try to antagonize India Walton, and then went and filed a complaint with the police, and police doing what they doing. Somebody filed, said this person did this to me, this person did that to me. If they feel like they have grounds for arrest, they will arrest you and let the courts figure it out afterwards. Meanwhile, you got a whole arrest record for the rest of your life, and it looks like you're a whole criminal where you ain't did nothing at all. A mess. A mess. And because of that situation, then they started to say, oh, she has short temperament. She has a temper problem. She is the problem. We can't have a loose cannon like this running our city. Y'all know how that goes. And it went on and on and on and on and on. Um, mind you, they failed to report on all of the grocery list of things that Byron Brown had done and all of the missteps and mishaps and things that he had done while in office. I don't need to keep going on and on and on and on because I got a lot of notes here and I don't want to bore y'all with all of my notes. I got a lot of notes here. But the point that I'm making to you all is when you start to hear the clamorings that, oh, the country isn't going more left. Oh, the country wants the Dems to be centrist. Oh, that's the Democratic establishment trying to hang on to their positions. That's the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, the Jim Clyburns of the world, and all of those people in the moderate Dems political establishment saying, we ain't giving up our spots without a fight. I told y'all when the Dems took the took back Congress back in what was that 2020. When did Dems take back Congress? Was it 2018? 2018, I believe it was. I said then that Nancy Pelosi ain't coming out. Nancy Pelosi promised, oh, I'm just going to take the speakership again just for a short while we get the Democratic Party back, in establishment and get everything worked out within the party, and then I'll bow out gracefully and let somebody else take it. She wasn't doing that. She had no intentions on ever doing that. Y'all see she still in the speakership, and you don't hear no clamors about her ever coming out. And every time she wants black people to do something, who they put out there? Who they put out there every time they want the black people to fall in line? Jim Clyburn. I told y'all from here on out, Jim Clyburn can't say nothing to me about what I need to do and what I don't need to do. Then she got my frat brother out there who I pray for my frat brother, Hakeem Jeffries, who's younger, but he's already ready and willing to fall in line with the establishment and what they want him to do. And sometimes I look at him and I say, "What are you doing? You gotta fight more for the people. You got to be more in line and in tune with what your constituents wants. And what the people are clamoring for is not what the Dems are delivering." Shout out to the squad who's doing everything in their power to hold it down. I hope the Progressive Caucus um, gets rid of Representative Jayapal, Pramila Jayapal, because she's not doing them any justice as leader of the Congressional Progressive Caucus at all. She ain't doing nothing to help them out. Hey, Jason, she's we got a lot of things going on here. But at the end of the day, we got a bloodbath that's coming on. What I hope that, because they keep looking at the Virginia election as a litmus test, what I hope they truly see from it is because McAuliffe was establishment and centrist, the people ain't here for him. And if they don't notice, the electorate is way more polarized. Um, Youngkin was just as right fringe as everybody else, the Donald Trumps and the rest of them, but he's a politician and he knows how to speak the language and walk the walk and talk the talk. But he's still way out there. Y'all see how he's touting the CRTs and all of it. He has all of the same language. Make sure that we support our police force and make sure all of the same terrorist, white supremacist, white privilege stuff. But he knows how to walk the walk and talk the talk. And so what I'm saying is y'all cotton on white women. White women go anywhere the wind blow. You can't count them as much as you can count on a wet piece of toilet paper. A wet piece of toilet paper is not holding up anything. And white women ain't holding up no political party at all. At all. And so if you truly plan to get more of the diversified vote and more of the vote of black people and brown people and um, indigenous people and minority voters, it ain't going more centrist. It's not. We are not our parents. We are not the baby boomer black populace. And and I'm gonna tell you, and I've said this for a while, the Democratic Party still thinks that the whole of the black community had the same ideology as the baby boomers. Those are our parents and grandparents right now. Our ideology and level of thinking is not the same because we haven't had the same experiences. Some of us didn't grow up in a segregated South like they did. Some of us were forced to fall in line with everything politically, socially, and so forth, like they had to back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and so forth. Some of us were born in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And our way of thinking and ideology is totally different from the baby boomers. Listen, I just wanted to spotlight and highlight what happened with India Walton to show you that this stuff happens all the time within the Democratic Party, which why they can't get it together. Which is why next year is about to be a bloodbath. We also talked about how this Build Back Better Act may never see the light of day. If it does, it's going to look nothing like what y'all see today. Please be clear. A mess. That's what it is. A goddamn mess. Anyway, y'all, we're here. We're here for all of this. That is our politics of it all today. I feel my head about to explode because my mind is going in a whole lot of places. So, Tabitha. Oh, he's signing the infrastructure bill. He's signing it. The Build Back Better Act is never going to. He's going to have the official signing of the infrastructure bill today. That's the bill that he's signing. But the Build Back Better Act is the one that has the universal pre-K and all of those things. Remember we talked about it on the live of it all. What stayed and what didn't, what made it and what didn't make it in the Build Back Better Act. That's the one that's never going to see the light of day. Oh yeah, it's a separate bill, which is why, and that's what we were talking about. The reason that you had those members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and the squad who voted no on the infrastructure bill, hey Amber, is because they, from the beginning, the Dems said the two bills should go together. You should have both the infrastructure bill and the Build Back Better Act voted at the same time. Problem is, the Senate passed the infrastructure bill first, which is unusual. Normally it goes to the House, then it gets to the Senate. The Senate passed the infrastructure bill first, and it was bipartisan. And you had, I think, 19 senators that reached across the aisle and voted for it because it gives money to all of their friends and cronies who own all of these construction companies and all of these companies that stand to make billions upon billions of dollars from this infrastructure bill. The people who have lined the pockets of these senators to get it through. That's why Joe Manchin and them was so here for it. But the House Dems the progressive wing of the House, them said, if y'all want, and even the progressives in the Senate say, listen, if y'all want the infrastructure bill, then y'all need to pass it with the Build Back Better Act. Now, the reason the infrastructure bill was able to pass is because so many senators on the Republican side crossed the aisle in order to vote in its passage, which should show you something. The Republicans ain't voted with the Democrats on a single thing all this year, not a single goddamn thing. And so when it got down to the House, the Progressive Caucus was like, we're not voting on this until y'all vote on the doggone Build Back Better Act, because that was their only leverage to get the Build Back Better Act passed. Now Joe Manchin looking at them like, I ain't signing the goddamn thing until y'all take out this, and this. After they had already taken out and gutted half the bill. And so now the moderates got everything they want. Progressives, Pelosi gave up all of the leverage, which tells me, like I said, she ain't want no parts of it anyway. So all of those beautiful things and glowing things that Biden is touting in this Build Back Better Act, it ain't gonna see the light of day. Mm-mm. But like I said, they around here saying that the progressives are the problem. A mess, a goddamn mess. Mm, mm, mm. Anyway, I'm gonna be in these streets watching all things politics and bring it back to y'all. Uh, we'll get together. We'll let y'all know what it is. If y'all have questions or things y'all want me to look into, let me know. And I want to. I got this thing where I'm going to start to. And I keep saying I'm gonna do it. I got to just gotta find time. I just have no time in the day, y'all. I want to spotlight a lot of these young black politicians around the country that don't get enough notoriety, so that we can see them um and spotlight them and help them get some traction in these political streets and stuff like that. Anyway, like I always say, I'm here for y'all. Love to give y'all everything that's happening. um Love y'all. Love on y'all. Thank you all for being vocal, present, and active. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for any and all contributions that you make to the channel. They are much obliged and much appreciated. We're here. We'll be here. I hope to do another one later this week. We'll see how things go with my schedule. But that's all I got for y'all. Until next time, thank y'all for coming. Y'all drive safely. I'm out.